You're joining the Bob Hoover story. It's an unbelievable story. He has been shot down. He sat in the water for all afternoon. He made sure his escape kit fell to the bottom of the water because it contained a saw blade that was encased in rubber that could be put up the rectum. He made sure the Germans didn't get that because it was a vital, secretive part of warfare. Anyhow, we're just about ready to go behind barbed wire with Bob Barbed Wire Hoover.
Being a prisoner of the Germans was a new reality for Bob, but it didn't change him. It just gave him a new set of objectives.
They took me off and put me in a dungeon, and
They put him in a dungeon. Yeah, he's in medieval Europe. They have taken the historic castles and turned him into POW camps so that he's in a dungeon. And there are torture devices down there left from the Middle Ages. And by the way, the rats love him. Everybody loves Bob Hoover, so he's being loved by the rats right now.
I lived with the rats for the next day or so. And then they took me out for an interrogation. They took me to a real fine hotel that was a billeting spot for all the German officers in that area. And the families were with them. In some
Went to the best hotel, checked in, and the hotel manager said, "You're a POW." So I got just the right spot for you.
cases, and they tied me up on a big column in the lobby with my hands behind me like this, and the wives would come by and spit on me and slap me, and I did understand why, because so many of them had lost their families and their homes in the bombings that...
Okay, so there's your death hoaxing. Again, Hypnos, his twin brother is Thanatos. So if that answers for you why so many of these stories involve huge numbers of deaths, because Hypnos has a twin brother, Thanatos, and the two of them work together. So wherever there's hypnosis, there's Thanatos, and vice versa. Where there's Thanatos or death, you're going to find Hypnos.
doing.
But he did understand.
And I endured it. Of course, I was mad and a hornet at the time.
Now, I'm not sure, I mentioned this earlier, I think this is Sam Elliott play acting with a lot of makeup on his face, a nose piece, and this fake mustache. Sam Elliott loves these types of mustaches. Okay? But I'm not sure. But I guarantee you one thing, you're listening to an actor.
It was happening, but as I reflected on it, well, I had the wrong attitude. I wanted to escape, and I never quit trying till the day I did.
Bob endured 16 months in that camp. He repeatedly tried to escape.
Endured? Well, they had pizza, they played chess, they had floor shows with the German chorus girls. They issued them a radio so they could listen to the BBC.
Escape, but was caught, beaten, and put in solitary each time. But gaining his freedom was now Bob's focus. And I believe determination was the engine that drove Bob Hoover in every circumstance of his life. Bob was in that camp so long that the Allies had nearly defeated Germany. In fact, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme
Clark Gable, actor. Clark Gable. actor. So Clark Gable, Eisenhower sends an order to the POW camps, and I'm sure the Germans very much appreciated this contact, and they gave copies to all the POWs. Please don't try to escape because we're coming soon to bust you out.
Of the Allied Expeditionary Forces in Europe issued a new order to pilots and airmen being held in German prison camps. It told them to stop risking their safety with escape attempts because they would shortly be liberated anyway.
D-Day is coming.
This is Bob Hoover we are talking about.
I ignored that. I kept right on attempting to escape because I wanted out. The war in Japan was still going on, and I wanted to get in on that.
Ooh, he was a warmonger. He wanted to get out there and kill. Kill, 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 kill. He wanted to be a maniac. He wanted to be insane. Go out and kill people for no reason. He had war in his mind. He's a real American hero because he wants to go out and just kill people. He was a warmonger. Oh, can't stop him, even though he's in a POW camp. Well, the story's going to get better here, folks. Stay tuned.
The day I got out, I got a diversion going. I got some of the fellows that I'd worked with on some of the escape attempts to start a fight. And once they started the fight...
Yeah, now the Germans are extremely stupid people. They would never think somebody started a fight to distract them. But they're also cowards, too, because he's going to tell you that the big guns are off in the distance, so half of the guards left the camp. They just deserted.
Got all the guards' attention, but half of the guards had deserted by then. We could hear the big guns about 50, 70 miles away, and we got to the other side, and now we were away from the Germans for the most part, out in open countryside.
This futuristic plasma lighter is the perfect gadget for any outdoor lover. This new
After 3 days on the run in Germany, a very hungry Bob Hoover and his fellow escapee came to a farmhouse occupied by the wife of a German officer. Her husband was based elsewhere. Luckily, she spoke English. In exchange for some food, Bob wrote her a letter.
Now, notice how these little key words are transitional words, and they cover miles and miles and miles of gap of logic. All right? Luckily, she spoke English. And she's more than happy to speak English to this dude that just shows up at her house. And she's all by herself as a woman. All right? So she's not the slightest bit worried about anything happening to her in terms of male-female type of events. So she begins to speak in English. And he writes a letter. Well, let's take a look at the letter. You might want to read it.
To the advancing Allied troop.
To whom it concerns, please treat this good woman and the occupants of this house with all courtesy and respect. She has given me food and a weapon and aid. She'll even give him a gun.
The letter asked the Allies to treat her kindly because of the help she had provided him.
Now right there, I don't know all my Masonic stuff. I was never a Mason, never wanted to be a Mason, but I know their handshake stuff, There's always something going on. They're communicating by their handshakes. And that's how they communicate with each other, to let you know they're giving out BS. So I'm sorry I can't decipher it for you, but most likely you're just looking at some kind of a Masonic nonsense handshake stuff.
She also gave him a pistol. Bob was on the hunt for a German airplane he could use to fly himself to the Allied lines and freedom. As he continued to move around the German countryside, he was in and out of the lines of the Russian troops. The Russians were vengeful enemies. Bob witnessed unspeakable brutality inflicted on Germans by the Russians. Eventually, Bob made his way to a deserted airfield and started looking for an airplane.
Finally, I found one that was full of bullet holes, but the engine was okay, and it was full of fuel. And I said, I'm going to wait till a mechanic walks by here, and I'm going to put the gun on him and bring him in here and help him get the airplane started. And so finally, a German mechanic did come by, and I pointed the gun at him and yelled, and I motioned for him to come into the revetment, and he walked in there. Boy, he was just, we put his hands up, and his face was just pale as a ghost.
Now, there's a couple of things that they don't mention, and you need to sort of like ask some questions, like, he's talking to a German. Does he speak German? Does the mechanic speak English? And if the mechanic speaks English, why would the mechanic want to converse with him if he's holding a gun on him and he's the enemy? So we have gaps like that. Now the other gap will be if the mechanic is going to help him start this engine plane, how does he continue to hold the gun on him? Now, if you go to the Wikipedia, they will say he's with other prisoners who escaped, and they will hold the gun on him. But he makes no mention of that whatsoever. So we'll just assume he's by himself, because he doesn't mention there's other ones with him during this time. So how does he hold the gun on the mechanic and go into the plane and start it? And where is the mechanic, by the way? Where is he? Is he on the ground? Is he on the wing of the plane? Why is he being so cooperative? And why doesn't he look for a chance to jump him? So you can see it's all nonsense, but let's go on.
Showed Bob how to start the Focke-Wulf 190 airplane, and Bob decided it would be too risky to taxi the airplane slowly out to a runway. He simply firewalled it out of the revetment where it was parked.
Well, I let it go, and I went straight out of that revetment, got airborne, got the gear up, and there was a 4,000-foot ceiling. And I no more than got off the ground, and I started thinking, you know, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done.
That's right, and it's the dumbest story you've ever heard. So I'm going to stop this right now. I apologize for my phone ringing in the middle of this, and I didn't answer the phone so I could continue with the video. So we'll do one more, and then we'll wrap up the Hoover story. Unbelievable. End of video.